Oh, hey everybody, it's Stephen Matheny. I'm here with part 2 of Google Forms Easy Grader. In this video, I'm going to be teaching you how to create a menu for your Google Sheets. If you like this video, please actually click the like button on YouTube. I'm really enjoying all the feedback that I'm getting from you guys. Y'all are awesome. On Facebook, I'm getting comments about thank you and really excited people. It's really actually pumped me up so much that I decided that I'm gonna start making this next video today rather than waiting until next week, which I was planning on doing. If you are new to Google Apps Script, this is going to be the video for you because you're gonna start off with a task and a project that will be used in your classroom for years to come, potentially. When I started off with Google Apps Script, I was just learning random things and it didn't really get used until I figured out how to put those things together. I'm hoping that this is a beneficial way for teachers to start their journey with Google Apps Script. It's actually something that you can use in your classroom beginning, honestly, during these times. If you're using Google Forms to collect work from your students, you can start using it today. Don't mind these guys here. They're just gonna be watching today. They're probably going to give us some big old long speech and moral life story at the end of this, so be watching out for that. If you can subscribe to this video channel, that would really mean a lot to me. Comment on these videos. People actually do read those things and it really helps the YouTube channel grow. Like the videos. When people are looking through videos, if they see 1,000 likes on one video, they're more prone to like that one and watch that one than if they only see like 2 likes. Watch this video thoroughly if you could for me. That would be awesome. It would be a huge favor to me. I really appreciate it. If you're new to AppScript, that's completely fine. If this becomes overwhelming and daunting, you may choose to click on the Teacher Pay Teacher link in my description below this video. That'll send you to a discounted price. This discounted price is only going to last for 3 or 4 days. That's the maximum amount of time that they allow you to discount your stuff on Teacher Pay Teachers. So right now it's $12.50 to buy this product from Teacher Pay Teachers, and originally it's going to be $15. I decided that I want a more broad audience using this than just the few that can afford a higher price point. So I lowered the price point so that it's more accessible to teachers who may want this product but don't want to spend a higher dollar amount on the product. So take advantage of that now. It's $12.50 rather than $15. So you're saving a little bit of money there if you want to go buy this. I'll be posting videos with step-by-step tutorials, but if you're super eager and you want to use it now, then that might be the best option for you, and you can come look and see how to do it later if you want to. All right, so here's what we're gonna do today. We're gonna make our custom menus in our Google Sheet. That way when we press the buttons, it runs a function, which we're gonna create in the next video that I post. So let's begin. Here's the Google Sheet that you're gonna wanna start with. In column A, class, and in column B, name. And I suggest doing like I've done, last name, comma, first name. I want to add a third column as well, so that way you can freeze the first 2 columns. And so as you scroll to the right, you're going to want to keep those names static. And I suggest freezing the top row as well, so that way when you scroll down through all these names, you can see all of them and you know what the title of each of these things are, and your quiz titles will also remain at the top of your spreadsheet. You're also going to want to name it grades. It's likely going to say Sheets 1 right now. You're going to want to double click it and make sure it says grades with a capital G, and then add a new sheet. If you don't know how to do that, that's this plus button down here, and name it URLs with a capital URLS. On the URLs sheet, you're going to want a header quiz title, a header called form, a header called responses, and a header called total point values. And what I've done on this sheet and on this other sheet, as you can tell, is I've deleted all the other rows and all the extra columns So under Stephanie Tanner here, there's no extra rows. And as you can see, C is my last column. And if you look at URLs, I only needed 4 columns, A, B, C, and D. So I've went and I've deleted all the other ones. If you watch my warm-up weekly average, you'll see how to do that. And I've also deleted all of the rows underneath too. You will need to keep 1 row unfrozen. That is a requirement. As you need more rows in a sheet, you can always click this add button, but you won't need to add any more manually because the script will do that for you. Once you have grades and URLs set up with your students' names, last name, comma, first name order, you may begin your app script. And we're going to start by making a custom menu next to this help menu that says quizzes. So if you've never seen Google Apps Script before, this is how you open it. Click here where it says tools. Click where it says script editor, and it'll load the script editor for you. Now that the script editor has loaded, yours should look pretty much exactly like mine, with the exception of this custom menu called colors and this custom menu where I can pick the font size. I highly recommend, if you're going to use AppScript, that you get this extension because it'll change the colors. It's called AppScript Color. You can change the color of your AppScript to help your eyes out a little bit. I will keep mine as the default colors, so that way as we type things, yours will look similar to mine. So currently we have a function called myFunction. This is the default name for the function when you open up your AppScript editor. Notice how the function is named. This is important because when we create functions in the future, we'll be using this name scheme throughout the entire time. The first letter is lowercase, and then after that, when you add another word, you capitalize the letter. In this case, I'm actually going to erase that, and I'm going to call it on open. And then there's a set of parentheses here that is needed when you're defining a function. And then finally, there's some curly brackets. Any commands we write within these curly brackets, that is going to be what the function does when you run that function. We just have to type in there directions we want to give our Google Sheet for when it is open. We want the Google Sheet to show us a custom menu such as the one called colors up here. To do that, we're going to set up some variables. So to set up a variable, you start with var, which stands for variable. You name the variable workbook. And then you put equals. Then you tell the Google Apps Script what you want that variable to store for you. So for instance, if I wanted my Google Apps Script to remember my name, I would say variable workbook equals Stephen Matheny. And then every single time I ever type the word workbook, it would know, okay, Stephen Matheny. That's what a variable does. It holds information for you to use later, so that way you don't have to type a lot of stuff over and over and over again. For instance, this variable is going to be equal to spreadsheet app dot get active with an open and a close parenthesis. Spreadsheet app is a function that Google has written, and it's built into the script editor, so you don't have to write a bunch of lines of code. It's kind of like a variable. Get active simply gets the spreadsheet that you're working on. Now, anytime we type workbook, it's going to get the active spreadsheet. If you think about Google Apps Script like the scene in The Office where Kevin says, "Me not use lots words, saves lots times." That's kind of what Google Apps Script is. You're not using a lot of words, you're giving it enough information to know what it needs to do without having to type a bunch of stuff. This says, I have a function, its name is onOpen. And what I want it to do is within this curly brackets, I want it to set up a variable called workbook to store within that variable the active spreadsheet. So if you kind of start to think of AppScript like a broken version of English, it might make sense to you. Now this semicolon that I'm putting at the end of this is just common practice. You do not have to have that. It's just kind of, I'm done with this line, I'm moving on to the next line. So I'm gonna push enter. Notice how the S is capitalized and the A is capitalized. That's because this is a function that Google has written for us. And so it's capitalized in both. At least we're gonna set up a variable called UI. UI in tech speak is user interface. It's literally what you're looking at. So when you look at this, you're looking at menus up here. And why we want to get the UI is because we want to add a menu to it. We're going to store our user interface within the variable called UI. Now, to get the UI, we're going to use the spreadsheet app again. And we're going to put dot. Well, what are we wanting to get? We're wanting to get the UI. And I'm going to open and close parentheses. Again, all this is doing is we are setting up a new variable called UI, that stands for user interface. And what information do we want to store within that variable? Well, we want to get the UI from the spreadsheet so that anytime I type UI from now on, it's going to know that I'm wanting the user interface of the spreadsheet. Next, we're going to give this function a command. So we're going to get the UI, which we've already stored in a variable, so we don't have to type all of this stuff. Instead, we can just type UI. We're going to push the dot to tell it what we want to do with the UI. And notice it brings up all of these options for us to use. So if you ever get stuck in Google AppScript, scroll through these things and see if there's something there that you're wanting to do. We're going to create a menu. Essentially, what this is asking us to do is create a name for our menu, such as colors, like this menu has. So I'm going to set up some parentheses, and within those parentheses, I'm going to give this a title called quizzes. It must be within quotation marks. Now that I've created a menu, I'm going to add an item to that menu, so that way when you click it, it'll run a function. So I'm going to put a dot, and I'm going to add an item. Notice it wants a string caption, just like the previous command wanted, and a string function name. String caption is just what do you want to title it, and string function name is what function you want to run when this item is clicked. So in parentheses, I'm going to call this item create, and I'm going to put a comma for the next thing that it's looking for, which is function name. I'm going to create a function called createForm. So that's the string that I'm going to write in here. I'm going to close my parentheses. Let me recap what's happening just so that I can make sure you're following along. Because Google AppScript can be daunting, but I think if we break it apart step by step, it really will help and it'll make sense. So I'm getting the user interface, which is what you're looking at. On the user interface, I'm creating a menu called quizzes. Within that menu, I'm adding an item called create. When I click create, it's going to run a function called createForm. We're going to add another item called grade. And that item, when clicked, is going to run the function gradeForm. What I'm going to suggest to you is to pause this video and try to put dot and add another item called grade that's going to run the function gradeForm, but I write my own instruction. And if you do get it right all by yourself without my help, then comment in the comments section letting us know, because that is awesome. You are on your way to learning Google AppScript. You should celebrate. So I'm going to give you 3 seconds to pause. 3, 2, 1. And now I'm going to continue. So add item. We're going to call it grade. So when we click grade, it's going to run the function called createForm. Did you get it? Hopefully so. The last thing that we're going to do, now that we've created this menu and we've added 2 items to this menu, is we're going to add this menu to our user interface. I bet if you push dot and you look at the 4 choices that we have, you probably can intuitively figure out which of these 4 items you need to use to add this menu to our user interface. So before I do it, maybe try. All right, add to UI, open and close parentheses, and now we're done. I'm going to push the semicolon just because that's the end of the line, and that's common practice for writing in Google Script. A common mistake in Google Apps Script is that we get used to Google Sheets, Docs, Slides, and all those other apps saving our progress as we work. Google Apps Script will not do the saving for you. You must hit save. It will warn you when you're about to exit. It's like old school Word when it would not save for you. If there was a thunderstorm and your power went out and you were working on a 10-page paper and you failed to hit that floppy disk up there, we've all had that experience. It is terrible. It's tragic. That will happen in Google Apps Script, so you must save it as you progress through Google Apps Script. So we have to define a function called createForm and a function called createForm. And it's just as easy as we did when we defined a function called onOpen. So we're just going to go to that last curly bracket at the end. We're going to enter a few times, and we are going to define a function called createForm, open and close a parenthesis, and we're going to open and close a curly bracket, because inside of those curly brackets is where we're going to give this function its instructions. It's common to hit enter twice before that second curly bracket to give yourself one line. Hit the tab key. So now we have a function called createForm. What I'm going to suggest you doing is down below in line 11, create a function called createForm before I make mine. And if you get it, again, comment below letting us know that you got it beforehand. Press the pause button, create a function called createForm, and then I will create mine and we'll see if we got the same thing. All right, I'm going to make mine now. Function space grade capital F form, open close parentheses, open close brackets, enter, tab right there, and we're good. Now we have 2 functions, one called createForm and one called createForm. I'm going to go ahead and hit the floppy disk because I don't want to have that bad experience. And now we're going to give some instructions to this createForm. Let's create an alert. To create an alert, we're going to need to get our UI again. So we have to set that variable up again. Good news, we've already done it once, so all we have to do is copy it and paste it. I'm just going to copy both these variables, workbook and UI, because we're going to need them anyways in the future. I'm going to highlight them, press Control-C, which is copy. Then I'm going to go within the createForm curly brackets, and I'm going to press Control-V. I'm going to do the same for createForm. That way I can use those variables within those functions scopes, aka curly brackets. On the next line, I'm going to say UI dot alert. I'm going to open up my parentheses and I'm going to create a string, which you guys know now needs to be within quotation marks. And I'm going to say you clicked create. And I'm going to close the parentheses. I'm going to add my semicolon. And then I'm going to do the same with createForm. I'm going to create an alert there. Since I've already created an alert here, I'm going to copy this line. I'm just going to go to the end of this line, hit enter, and I'm going to paste it. Then I'm going to delete this where it says create, and I'm going to say grade, because this is going to show up when we click grade. Click the floppy disk save, back to my sheet, click quizzes, and create. It says you clicked create. Push OK. We're going to click quizzes again and click grade. Yay! We got a message that says you clicked grade.